This is 8G5. This is 8th grade geometry, standard 5. And today we are going to be doing video 2, angles, parallel lines, and transversals. We have a few terms to know. I'd like you to copy these down and get a really nice definition written in your journals. And I'll actually be talking about these as the video goes on. So when we're talking about a transversal, the transversal is the purple line that is intersecting two parallel lines. So I'm going to note that we have two parallel lines, and I'll call them line M and N, and the symbol for parallel is such. Okay, now a lot of things happen when we have a line intersect two parallel lines. When the transversal goes through, we create a number of different angles. And I'm going to take out my cursor and I'm going to show you all the possible angles that you're going to come across. So we have, we'll count them out. We have one angle, 2, 3, 4, and if we go down to the bottom here, we have our fifth angle, 6, 7, and 8. So we have 8 angles created by this transversal. And when we have that transversal, we have a couple of new terms to talk about. We have corresponding angles, alternating interiors, and alternating exteriors. So let's start first by designating what an interior and exterior actually is. And I'll do that with a highlighter. So if you're talking about the interior of something, you're talking about the inside. So we're going to look at the inside of our line M and N, our parallel lines. So as you can see, I'm shading the interior. All right, now let's talk about the angles that are on the interior. What are they? Okay, so we had 8 total angles, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 that are located on the inside of my parallel lines. Now, if you're talking about the exterior means the outside. So now we're looking at the outside of the parallel lines, and I'll shade that in with a brown highlighter. So we have the angles that are above line M on the outside, and we also have the angles below line N on the outside or exterior. And that means we're going to have those 4 remaining angles. We have one angle, 2 on the exterior of the parallel lines, and then we drop down to the bottom, we have angle 3 and the 4th angle also located on the exterior. Okay, so let's put some labels on there real quick. And we began with well, we could begin anywhere. Let's just start on the interior. That always seems to be the easiest one. So if I go on the inside, recall these are all the interior portions or interior angles of your parallel lines, and I'm going to find the partners that match up with it. So if I'm looking at this first angle, it appears to be acute. Whose partner, who would be the same measurement on the interior that matches up with the first angle that I have? So it looks to be acute, and alternating means opposite sides. So we go from one side to the other of the transversal. Okay, sorry about that. We had to pause the video there. So I think where we left off was the interior portion of our parallel lines. And if I were to alternate, we're going on opposite sides of the transversal. So that would be, here's the interior, and the alternating side would be my two acute angles. And then, so that's your first set. And then the second set of alternating interior, if I slid this one to the right, we have a very large obtuse. And if we're alternating, we're going to the opposite side on the inside. And there you have another set of alternating interior angles. All right. Let's talk about the exterior angles, and they are also alternating. If you recall, we had the outsides of our parallel lines, and if I'm going to alternating, I'll just choose my first set. So if I'm on the outside of line M and I'm still on the outside of line N and they are alternating, they are on opposite sides of our transversal, there's our first set. And then our second set, if I slid this one to the right, there's my little acute angle. I'm not alternating right now because I'm on the same side. So now I need to go to the alternate side exterior. All right, the last one is called corresponding. And corresponding means the same. So if I am on the same side of the transversal, we're actually going to have multiple corresponding angles. So we have, let's start on the exterior. And if I'm on the same side of my transversal, I'm going to run right along this side right here. Who's the matching angle that will be congruent? Well, that's an acute angle, so I need to find the obtuse angle. Whoa. And there we have it. So there's our first set. And if I were to stay on this upper portion of the transversal and find my second set, I would go here. But obviously this is acute and this one is obtuse, so I'll have to drop it down one. So there are my two acute angles. So now I have two pairs. Let's go to the other side of the transversal. And if I'm corresponding, what's happening here? If I'm corresponding, I need to be on the same side of the purple line, and let's match it up. So I'm acute, now I'm obtuse, and now I'm acute. So those two angles are congruent. And then the fourth set would be my two obtuse on this side, corresponding. All right, so now I have an example here where they gave us one of our angles. Looks like they gave us angle 2. And it says find the measures of the other numbered angles in the diagram and tell whether they are corresponding, alternate interior, or alternate exterior. So this is a good time to review what we had in the last video called vertical angles and supplementary angles. So knowing that this angle right here is 43 degrees, by rule, I can figure out all of the other three angles based on vertical angles or supplementary angles. So I could find the supplement to 43 degrees with angle 1, or if you wanted to come to the other side, we can also use this idea of supplementary to find angle 4. So why don't we do the easiest one? Let's do the vertical angles. Well, if I know that angle 2 is 43 degrees, that means angle 3 is also 43 degrees. And finding angle 1 must be the supplement to 43. So we go 180 degrees, subtract 43 degrees, and we get 137 degrees. So angle 1 is 137 degrees, and by vertical angle rule, we have angle 4 also being 137 degrees. All right, now how are we going to get angles 5, 6, and 7, 5, 6, 7, and 8? Because they don't give us anything down low to help us get those easily. So we have to think about what I taught you on the last screen. So we know that we have options of corresponding, alternating interior, and alternating exterior. So let's talk first about the alternating interiors. And I'll just shade that portion again. If you recall, we're dealing with the interior of these parallel lines. So who are all the angles on the interior right now? All right. Well, if I know that angle 3 is 43 degrees, and I do the alternating, that means the opposite side of the transversal on the inside would be angle 6. So by rule, I know that that would have to be 43 degrees. And the same goes for angle 4. If I have the alternating interior angles, angle 4 being 137, that means angle 5 must also be 137 degrees. Okay, now you can quickly use your vertical angle rules to figure out angle 7 and angle 8. So angle 7 would be vertical to 6, and that would be 43. And then angle 5 is vertical to angle 8, and that would get you 137. All right, now the last part says, tell whether they are corresponding alternating interior or alternating exterior. So you're going to have a lot of answers here. I'm going to start you off, and then I would like you to finish all of the relationships that you're going to see. So the first relationship that I'm going to make a note of is I'm going to say that angle 1 and angle, let's say, how about 5? What relationship do we have with 1 and 5? Okay, so we have 137 degrees, and I slide down here to 5. Well, I know that 1 is on the exterior and 1 is on the interior, so we have to cancel those options. So the only other option left would have to be corresponding, because if they are on the same side of this aqua blue transversal, we know that they correspond to each other. Okay, so let's write that out. Angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding. I'm going to do one more for you, and then you're going to finish off all the other relationships. Okay, so how about we do angle 3 and angle 6. Now, what relationship do you see here? So we go 3, and then we go 6. Well, I know that they are on the interior of my parallel lines, so they are opposite sides of the aqua blue line, so we call those alternating interior. All right, so again, there's going to be plenty more for you to find. I'd like you to write those down in your journal, and we'll talk about those other ones in class. Okay, last part. We have a little algebra here. Notice the x. So we have a missing number that we need to figure out, because it says find the value of x that make these two lines parallel to each other. Well, knowing that we have a transversal cutting two parallel lines, we want to make them parallel by stating the relationship between the two angles that they give you. So I have 6x degrees and 30 degrees. Well, since they are on the same side of the transversal, we know that they are corresponding. And what do we know about corresponding? Yes, they are equal to each other. So if I have 6x degrees being equal to 30 degrees, because they are the same measurement, they're equal to each other, how are we going to figure out what x is? Okay, so we do our inverse operations, and x is equal to 30 divided by 6 is 5. So if I have x equaling 5, which is the question that I need to have answered, let's check our work. So if x is 5 and I have 6 touching the x, that means multiply. 6 times 5 is 30 degrees, and we already knew that because those two should have been congruent to each other. Okay, in your journal, please define the terms on page 2 of the flip chart. And I know that there are some new things out there. I want you to concentrate on writing some nice sentences on what you learned from the video. And also, this time I want you to answer the last question here. It says, a transversal intersects two parallel lines, forming alternate interior angles labeled 1 and 2, and vertical angles that are labeled 1 and 3. I would like you to illustrate this situation, meaning draw the picture, and then explain in words, nice full sentences, on how the angles 2 and 3 are related. What type of relationship do they have? Use some terminology that we had earlier in this video and some of the things that you learned from the previous video that might help you create this relation. Okay, I'll see you in class.